you really have no choice. It's necessary, and it's necessary for our integrity, my personal integrity, yours, and of counsel. And I am so glad that I am here today talking to lawyers, and because I consider in my opinion, the only way the truth is going to come out is through the diligent work of lawyers. And I would call, for example, on the name of a good friend, John Floyd. I haven't seen him in years, but I know he's in the room somewhere, I hope. And you should know this, that John Floyd went into the courtroom, and I remember getting to know him, and he said, well, listen, what is this all about? I'm a criminal lawyer. I just, and we would talk, and then he says he would, begin to work the way a criminal lawyer should. And he hears that there's an expert, and the expert is going to explain the whole world to him. Of course, by the way, it's an expert on Rwanda, and the expert is from the United States, where you'd expect to find an expert on Rwanda. And as a matter of fact, that expert is so charming, so brilliant, so knowledgeable that I actually heard Judge Kama, the head of the court, say to her, this is so interesting, when she, in the middle of her testimony. And then she said, I would like to take some time, if I could, because I've lost a dear friend, if I could interrupt my testimony. And Judge Kama said, we can refuse you nothing. I invite you to read the record. We can refuse you nothing. If you're the defense lawyer, and let's say you're John Floyd, and thank God for John Floyd, he actually isn't interested in idolatry. He wants to know why this witness is trying to damage his client. You should read the cross-examination. It is available. If you would read the testimony of the ICTR, the defense counsel, most of them here, have laid out the truth as clearly as it can be laid. If somebody wants to solve the problems in that region and wants to know what happened, through the work of the defense counsel, we actually know. And a lot of people who said they were experts have been shown up. The cross-examination, again, of Alison Deforge by John Floyd is brilliant, it is disrespectful, and it is hilarious. Because all sorts of wonderful titles are introduced, and we really got the impression she might be from the royal family, that you couldn't actually say certain things to her because, the Wilson School of Princeton has declared her a genius, and, well, you don't want to pretend you can question a genius. Anyway, he said, I'm trying to find out what she knows. She doesn't seem to know anything, so I'm going to accept that she's a genius. We have to, in my opinion, we have no choice but to turn the vehicle around and return to the launching point of these tribunals, because something has been imposed on us that must be corrected. We cannot live under the cloud of lies about what the tribunal was going to do. And I was there, fortunately, at the opening day to hear Louise Arbour give a speech. And it's not a trivial matter, because that speech became the brand. And the brand is repeated in editorials to this day, and the brand comes out of the mouth of the prosecution. And they said, we've come here to, poor old Africa, to end the culture of impunity. And I'm sorry, I've been here now a long time, and it's only sinking in. And thanks to my encounters with Africans and people from Rwanda, Tanzania, none of whom, by the way, Tanzanians, Zambians, and none of them are impressed with this court, if you talk to them casually. But they were told that phrase, we're ending the culture of impunity, was impudent in the extreme. She did not establish what I would call a factual evidentiary base for that. She simply said it. Now, I come from North American culture, and I know something about impunity. I've seen all kinds of crimes committed by really important people, and the whole public knows that those crimes were committed. And we all look at each other and make owl faces. Oh, well, nothing happens, because we practice plenty of impunity. But she said to the court, we're going to end the culture of impunity. She also said, this is not going to be victor's justice. And she went so far as to say, as took place at Nuremberg, well, you know, the fact is that they did not improve on Nuremberg. And it was a very odd thing to say because it wasn't going to be victor's justice. How can I sit here 2012 and say to you, oh, they ended the culture of impunity, but no one from the Rwanda Patriotic Front was ever charged? None of these very famous people, many well-known people, committed crimes. Indeed, when this tribunal was established, the language was it was going to be a trial. The ICTR would try people who were from the other side. I confronted a very famous witness, famous to all of us who practiced work in Arusha. I confronted Mr. Renchins. He was on his way to be prepared by the prosecution. And I said, I don't understand why you're here. You seem a reasonable man. I read your books, etc. And you notice there, no one from the Rwanda Patriotic Front is being tried. Only one side in that war is being tried, yet the tribunal said it was going to try them all. And he said, oh, well, they will. But I had him because, unfortunately, he was standing next to the prosecutor. And I said, well, let's clear this up. Mr. Prosecutor, Mr. Retches just told me you're going to be prosecuting the RPF, members of the RPF. And he said, well, not to my knowledge. I know. No. Incidentally, Professor Renchins ceased to be a witness for the prosecution in following times. So I'm sorry. Yes, we have to go back, and we have to say to them, actually, you should not have said these words because editorial writers around the world are repeating them. I saw them in recent days. I see these editorials which says, well, so-and-so is being arrested, and we're ending the culture of impunity. When, in fact, the ICTR brought impunity for Mr. Paul Kagame, leader of the RPF and president of Rwanda. We had the experience, you know we did, of saying, are you going to bring charges? And it got to be a kerfuffle. And then the prosecutor said, we cannot bring charges. We can't do this because the government of Rwanda says it will not cooperate with our tribunal. And if they don't cooperate, we don't have a tribunal. You see? Well, the answer is don't have one. Don't have one. As a matter of fact, don't you have a self-respecting judge? Don't you have a judge who would turn to the government of Rwanda and say, you know, that's called contempt. What you just said is contempt. That you are going to blackmail this tribunal and tell us that if one of your people is charged that you won't cooperate, well then, we're going to charge you with contempt. Why not? But again, we all put on our owl faces and pretended we didn't quite know and let 3 days go by and returned to our work, which is a big mistake. As Paul Skolnick pointed out, we have let a bunch of things go by. But that was impunity, and it was put on a silver platter and handed to the man most likely to have murdered the president of Rwanda, starting this whole nasty process. He was given a pass. So, yes, and we have to do that. And I have to say, let me just tie this in with what I know about Mr. Taylor, present company accepted, that I think what is taking place, and look, let's be fair to our clients, they told us, is that their political process was interrupted by an intervention, an internationally sponsored intervention to prevent their own country from solving its own problems. In the case of Habyarimana, remember that he was treated, certainly by Alison DeForge, as a co-conspirator, which used to make us all laugh because apparently part of the conspiracy was to have himself murdered by his friends, which would then trigger the events, which is how the story is told.